Another cold morning, another least used station. Today it's Gunning, least used South region. Thank you. This is Gunning. It's a very different vibe to all of the other stations that I'm going to go. Certainly very different to Yungai. Yungai was effectively just a bus stop on a platform, but this is actually a proper station, a proper double track line, proper old station buildings. I don't think any of the doors open. We've got the parcels, got the ticket office. I don't think you can buy a ticket here anymore. There is a little help point, but it's just a phone, I believe. You've got a waiting room that I don't think is open. Because all these doors claim to be automatic, but then they're all locked. There's a ladies' room, a toilet. Dare say the toilet's probably not open. We've got our old friend, the CountryLink bench. But other than that, it's like all properly branded. An update to the poster for the new timetable. And this is one of the few stations with two platforms. Because even though this is a double track line, because there's no point work, there are no crossovers that let trains just use the one platform. So they have to use both, which is quite rare. Normally, at most of the stations, they will prefer, or that they will only maintain one platform. And they'll just run all trains through that platform in both directions, because then they don't need to put accessibility upgrades in or maintain a second platform. But because they can't do that here, they have to use both. Gunning. So I've got a little unprotected foot crossing down here. Got a 1, 2 and a 3 car XPT marker. Don't know, is that just 5, 6 and 7 cars? It must be. Across the unprotected crossing. There is a little siding down there and a crane. I'm not sure if this is connected to anything. It's a lot of old metal sleepers. A very formal station exit here, which just cuts across to this little siding. It's clearly not been used in a while. Come up onto platform 1. I will also say, normally I like to make fun of people from Sydney for overdressing in winter, but we're down south now and it's below my 10 degree cutoff, so I brought out the big puffer jacket because it is actually a bit cold. It's quite windy. I'm glad I've got the wind muffler on the microphone. Pretty sure you wouldn't be able to hear any of this if it wasn't for that. I've got some steel sleepers lying around. Can't imagine they've been used recently. I wonder what this is. Is that an old platform? Clearly ARTC are using this as a laydown area, because there are what appear to be new concrete sleepers behind there and ballast piles. Got some rail sections here. But I didn't pass anything that said no trespassing, so I'm going to walk here until someone tells me not to, and I don't think anyone will, so This is our crane, because this looks like it would have been a goods loading platform at one point. And then that's the end of that siding. Signals. Yeah, there's no crossovers here. And in fact there was a little siding on the downline which they've physically cut out, so it's completely inaccessible. There are due to be a couple of trains coming through, so hopefully I'll get some of them. I'll need to look at the master train plan just to figure out what time they'll be. I know the Griffith Explorer's coming through later, because I just came down on the morning Melbourne XPT, and I'm going back on the daylight return XPT, which gives me about 6 hours here. Yeah, so you've definitely got some concrete sleepers. I've got X's written on them. I don't know what that means. These look old, and maybe these ones are the new ones up there. There are a whole load of these pads down which go between the sleepers and the rails, just lying around. ARTC clearly care deeply about the environment. Yeah, these look new. They've got all their clips in them, so I presume at some point these are going to go in. It's possible this siding is still plugged into the signalling system, because they've put these plastic covers over, which I believe is to prevent the track circuit from completing. Because of course the sleepers being made of steel, if you put the track circuit in this rail, it's just going to short through the sleeper into the other rail. So they put these plastic insulation covers on to prevent that. So maybe it's still signalled. Oh, but this is all Imperial rail. £107 from 1949. So these rails are pre-metrification. That is something that you don't see every day. Looks like there's a stockpile of something here. It's way too fine to be ballast. I'm suddenly thinking perhaps the siding isn't connected, given one of the rails ends there and then starts back up just there, but it's completely cut out. And over there you can see the other siding that pops out there is also cut. And the fact that this is double track circuited and signalled really does make this one of the best main lines in the country. It's a shame that the double track stops at Junee. Yeah, you passed so many freight trains on the way down here. It's not possible with single track to deliver that much track capacity. This is definitely the old signal box. You can see the old junction layout there, which is much more complicated than it is now. I got what? 3 sidings, 2 shunt necks, all manner of crossovers, but the lever frame, it appears, has been long removed. There's a few old chairs and 3 trestle tables. They're not quite living up to its glory. And when Sydney trains book a signal box out, normally they leave the lever frame in and maybe put some historical thing in the window. ARTC clearly has a different approach. There is this little panel. So that's what the lever frame looked like. It's quite large. I guess it would have to be for that many points. I tell a lie, the toilet is open. Look at this. It's like actually a proper toilet. What's in here? Can I get in there? Oh, I can. This looks like a cleaner's cupboard. Yeah, it's just a little cleaner's cupboard. Doesn't look like that gets a lot of use. There's some panels here, show the history of the station. Clearly it was much busier at one point with stock movements. There's a map of all of the buildings on this side, which is quite interesting. And then down to this end you can see the down siding's been cut out. But I suspect that was a much more recent job, because they've left the crossing in but removed the point work. So maybe At some point in the future they'll come back and completely rip it all out and put some concrete sleepers underneath. And we got a 278.5 kilometre post. I just opened the master train plan to see when the next train would come through. It's a bit, you know, normally if there was a level crossing you get a bit of warning, but just got to hear them come around the bend. Also, looking at the drone footage, you'd never know just by looking at it. It's just a fence, but it's a fucking racetrack behind there. Now, as usual, I've got my paper of many things here. This locale, Gunning, has a population of 659. That was at the 2016 census. There are 2 trains a day in each direction. There's the day and night XPTs in both directions. And then there's the additional twice weekly Griffith Explorer, which is coming through today, and I think comes back tomorrow, and then it runs backwards and forwards another day. It's a request stop for all services, so I was the only one booked to get off. I was the only one who got off. No one got on, so they only opened one door of the train. The station opened in 1857 to presumably a much busier area. 728 people used the station in 2023, which makes it the 9th least used in the state and the least used on the southern region. That's an average of about 1 person every 2nd train. So you can expect every other train to stop. But actually, I can't imagine the night trains get very many use. So realistically, it's probably about maybe 1 person on or off on the daylight Melbourne trains. But there's no way of knowing because they don't publish that information. There are 2 platforms that are in regular use here, which, as I said, is very rare for the main south. The second platform, which is the one I'm on now, accessed by the unprotected foot crossing on that side. Most stations have crossovers at each end, which allow bi-directional use of just the 1 platform. So places like Yass Junction, for example, they used to have 2 platforms, but to save maintenance costs and for accessibility access, they just use platform 2. The station was heritage listed in 1999, and all of the original station buildings remain, which is unlike any of the other stations we're going to visit on this series, unfortunately. They were all, I believe, sort of the early 90s. They were knocked down and replaced with basically bus shelters. And then the heritage listings of railway stations generally came after, so they could just knock them down without any heritage consultation. I promised that was a different train. Had the same formation as the first one. And just like the first one that went through, I was literally looking through the master train plan in the middle of a piece to camera about what trains would come through. But for the record, that was, I'm not sure if that was timetabled or not, because there was only meant to be 1 up grain train, I think, unless the first one was very late and that one was on time. I'm not sure. There's meant to be 1 cube steel train to Port Kembla and 1 cube container train to, I believe, Sydney. And then in the down direction, I think there's a Pacific National and then the Griffith Explorer, but they're later on. I think for now, I'm going to retire to a cafe if I can find one and have some lunch. I don't know what Connect Gunning Station is, but presumably those are the offices for Connect Gunning Station. We've got the little car park here. Oh, it's an Arts and Culture Hub. Okay. So there's an arts and culture hub inside. We've got what? A water pump. I have not seen one of these at a train station before. We've even got a roundel here. I suspect that'll probably be the only roundel we'll encounter on this trip. I'm not sure if even Maxville had a roundel. You know, even though it's least used, it's still clearly got some attention. I presume that arts club is doing some of the heavy lifting there. Somewhat predictably, the XPT from Melbourne is running very late. At the moment it's at Albury, and it's 40 minutes down. Apparently it was late arriving into Melbourne yesterday, but the speed restrictions, the temporary speed restrictions that ARTC have in place are certainly not going to help. So it could be something like an hour late by the time it gets in. A raised crossing was not on my list of things to expect in Gunning, but oh well, that's good. Just got back from my walk into the centre of the town. Went to a little cafe and got some sweet treats for lunch. $5 each for like slices. That's crazy. Unbelievable value. You'll never get that in Sydney. But you know, perks of living in a country town, I guess. The downsides, of course, being that you have no services and you have to travel long distances to do anything. But you know, $5 cake. Okay, but real talk, New South Wales Trainlink is actually the most archaic institution known to man. We're out here in the 21st century, it's 2025, I can ask AI to draw me a picture of like Donald Trump kissing Elon Musk, and New South Wales Trainlink are still checking tickets by giving the customer service people a fucking manifest sheet to walk up and down the hill. John going to Albury, seat 34 Bravo. Is the most stupid way of doing anything. They insist on giving everyone a seat reservation, but they don't let you choose the seat. You can't book sleepers online. But why? And then they don't put seat reservation cards out either. The customer service guy on the XPT I came down on was an absolute dickhead. He was the biggest dick in the whole world. He came into the carriage with his little manifest sheet and says, "I have your tickets ready for inspection," even though they never actually inspect the physical ticket. They just ask you for your name and then check that it's what they have written on their sheet. And he notices that some people are like, "Oh, I'm not in my seat." He's like, "Okay, well, everyone who's not in your seat, please stand up."
Ladies and gentlemen, double check your tickets. If you are not in your correct seat, stand up now and sit into your correctly allocated seats. This will not change.
That's the most patronising thing anyone could ever say. You're trying to make a good service for your customers, or they'll just fucking drive next time or fly. You walk in and patronise the entire carriage like that. The carriage is half empty, and it's like, "Oh, what do you?" He literally said to someone, "Oh, do you think you're better than anyone else?" And he called in backup. He called in 2 other staff because someone wanted to sit in a seat that they didn't have reserved because it was empty. It's like, or who cares? Then the whole thing could be prevented if they just put seat reservation cards in the top of the seat, you know, a little card that says this seat is reserved from Campbelltown to Junee or whatever. And that way you can look at the card and say, advertises it as one that lets the client allow customers to select their own seat. But New South Wales Trainlink don't do that. It's stupid. The one member of train crew who I really did appreciate on my run this morning and on the XPT that's going to come and pick me up are the fucking drivers. Because the main south is full of temporary speed restrictions at the moment. ARTC, the Australian Rail Track Corporation's federal government agency that run the line, they're dog shit, right? They're awful. They can't really do anything without it taking a million years, and then when they finally do it, they do a half-assed job. The whole main south is covered in temporary speed restrictions, so much so that basically no train is able to run to the timetable. They accumulate so much delay from these temporary speed restrictions that Transport have had to put a GTFS notification out that says trains will run late because of temporary speed restrictions. And yet the XPT that's going to take me back to Sydney, it started its journey about 40 minutes late because it arrived into Melbourne late, probably because of the temporary speed restrictions. But it's now only 15 minutes late because the drivers, they throttle those things. When we were coming down, the driver was going full power, full brake, and there was harder braking on the XPT down here than on most of the suburban trains I go on. It was crazy. The driver must have actually just been going into full brake. And we weren't that late as a result. Like, nowhere near as late as I would have expected, knowing how many TSRs are in place on this line. So this is the XPT that's going to pick me up. It's between, where is it, Harden and Yass Junction. It left Southern Cross 16 minutes late. By the time it got to Albury, it was 40 minutes late. But it's now only back to, 16 minutes late? So the driver has recovered 25 minutes of delay, which is crazy. Now, the GTFS is always very optimistic about the time savings and the delay recovery, but I think we'll probably arrive at Central maybe 20 minutes late. So we're due in at just before 8. We'll probably be there, just after? But that's still pretty good, provided we don't get held up by too many TSRs north of Goulburn, because we did actually have to stop for a while north of Goulburn, and the alleged reason was track work. I don't know, I mean, trains aren't that frequent. Surely you'd be able to do your track work and then get everyone off the line before a train comes through the section. Anyway, it is what it is. I've just got the hour left before the train arrives. Train is just arriving back to Sydney, about 15-20 minutes late. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks to my members for making this possible, and I'll see you in 2 weeks' time at another station.